This last weekend, there was an open house in one of our listings, and this listing is super typical of the ones that you see in Sugar House. The upper floor is the bulk of the living area, and the basement itself is pretty much unfinished. The home is just over 1,600 square feet, but the upstairs portion is actually just less than 900 square feet. The rest is this unfinished basement. And the way we listed it is very typical of what we have to do in the area, but I am the first to agree, it is really confusing. What happened is that as people were coming in and they realized that the basement was unfinished, it was bad enough on the day of that my crew had several people confront them and say that we were false advertising. The reality is, we're in a system that we don't like either. It makes our lives difficult. What is typical in other markets is that square footage is listed by living area, and that living area is usually defined by whether it is air conditioned or heated. In my old market in Florida, we called it feet under air. In other markets, they may call it heated square feet. But here in Utah, at least I think it's pretty much statewide, the way that square footage is listed in tax records is the total square footage, and then the square footage in the basement has a percentage that says how much of that is finished square feet, aka living area. Otherwise, the rest of it is unfinished, and it is kept into the total square footage. It's not broken out, which means that it's really confusing for people. When they get to a home, they go through the upper floor and they go into the basement, and it's really just there for storage. And it's frustrating for us too, because we're trying to set up searches for buyers and answer their questions and even explain this confusing thing to them. And they are left just scratching their heads because the system is confusing. When I'm working with a buyer and they're doing searches on their own and they start sending me listings that are within the size that they know that they need to feel comfortable in a home, and I have to reply back to them that the home that they sent me, let's say that they're looking for 1,800 square feet. That's how much living area they're looking for. They send me a home that has like 1,800 square feet, and I have to explain to them that only like 900 of that home is living area. The rest is all unfinished basement. And they're like, what? Just like the people at this open house. And I try to explain to them that the total square footage, it includes everything, but then we need to look at the basement square footage and also the percent finished of the basement so that we can then determine the actual living area of the home. It isn't as simple as just say, I'm searching for a home that's between 1,600 and 2,000 square feet. You still could come up with homes that have far less living area than you actually need. So circling back to the open house that I started with, one of the people who had visited that day and had accused my team of being deceptive, she also went to the trouble of texting us and saying, I would never do business with people who are so shady and unethical. And as I read it, all I could feel is her pain. Like, I totally got where she was coming from, because it's our pain too. This system is really odd. And I decided that the best way to address this is to call her and basically explain to her what I have just been explaining to you, that we are stuck with a system that originates with how properties are entered into tax records. That feeds into our MLS. And then the homes are listed with the total square footage that they contain. Not all of it is living area. And also, just to add, in the listing that we had, I added an extra note that warned people that the basement was mostly for storage, just to go above and beyond, because I can't just change the square footage on a listing. This is how homes are entered into the MLS here. But the system really is confusing, so I wanted to take a few minutes to explain to you that when you're searching for a home, you need to pay attention to how much of the area, the square footage is in the basement, and then also look for basement percent finished. That line, and it'll have a percentage there, you then know if you actually have living area in that basement square footage, or if it is only going to be perhaps your laundry room and storage.